How's it going, everyone? As always, my name is Jimmy Champagne. This is Deck Ready, my channel all about the Steam Deck. I hope you had a great weekend playing games on your deck. I am still deep into Rogue Trader. This game is phenomenal. I feel like I'm living the experience that everyone lived last year with Baldur's Gate. I tried it. I couldn't get into it. I'm just not a big, regular fantasy guy, I guess you could say. Like Dungeons and Dragons is not my thing. Rogue Trader, though, that is my thing. I love Warhammer 40K. I'm so glad Space Marine 2 came out and got me into it because I'm finally playing one of these CRPGs and enjoying it from top to bottom. I'm also playing Castlevania Symphony of the Night. I started it just before Halloween. I did notice a bug with 3.6 where now EmuDeck games, they'll start up, like you can launch them from Steam, but you then have to switch them to the foreground, like they launch in the background, which is kind of annoying. But once I get in the game, it's Symphony of the Night. It's one of the best 2D Metroidvanias ever. So yeah, let me know what you're playing down in the comments below. I've got 3 topics to cover in today's video, starting out with the 10 games that were most played on the Steam Deck in October. Then I'm going to show off the new Steam controller because my friend Dustin brought one back from Japan for me. And third, we're going to talk about how EA is on the warpath yet again. This is not Battlefield 1, which we talked about last week. This is Apex Legends, which has been broken, and now they're blaming gamers for them removing support. So yeah, we're in November now. Valve likes to put out a list of the top 20 games that are being played on the Steam Deck the most. I'm a top 10 list kind of guy, so I usually shave off those bottom 10. Starting out, we have Stardew Valley. Not really surprising. That's always at the top of the list. It's a perfect handheld game. I want to get to it one day when I don't have so many games on my plate. I'm sure my wife would love it, but yeah, I understand why this is always number 1. Second on the list, speaking of CRPGs, we have Baldur's Gate 3, no shock there. I know it drops to below 30 FPS in the third act, but that takes so long to get to and it runs so well. Leading up to that point, I kind of understand why people are still playing the hell out of this game on the Steam Deck. I'm going to shout out my friend Channing here. His wife is offering to buy him a Steam Deck for his birthday, and he asked if Baldur's Gate runs. So I gave him the lowdown. I said, look, it's in the top 10 most played games in October. It's in the top 10 most played games every month. So people obviously are fine with it dropping below 30 in Act 3, and it's going to take you months to get there anyway. So I would recommend it. It looks like Channing is joining the Steam Deck army. Third on the list, we have a new game, Metaphor ReFantasio. This is a Persona style game. It's from the Persona team, but it's not in the modern day in a high school. It's like a fantasy RPG. I saw people criticizing it because it has PS3 style graphics, but I think that's good for a handheld like the Steam Deck because these RPGs used to be my bread and butter on stuff like the PSP, the PS Vita, and the 3DS. They really feel at home on a handheld. So with their not up to standard graphics, I would say, they still look and run phenomenal. And I wish more big developers would go back to using older engines in favor of performance because this game performs really well on the Steam Deck. And as you can see, they're reaping the rewards over at Atlas from making a game that performs well on the handheld because it's only been out for like a month now and it's in the top 10 most played games on the deck. Fourth on the list, we have Diablo 4, no doubt aided by its Vessel of Hatred expansion, but don't get it twisted. This game is always in the top 10. I have not gotten Vessel of Hatred just because I don't have the time to sink into it, and it's still rubbing me the wrong way in a big way that there's no Crusader class in this game. I like the Spiritborn. I like how busted it is. I think they're going to keep it busted, which is cool. I wish they had a Crusader at launch, and every expansion we don't get a Crusader makes me want to play the game less. I'm sorry, that's just the way it is, but I'm glad you're all having fun on the Steam Deck. Next, we have Balatro. Rich from Fan the Deck and Bill from Nerd Nest have been trying to get me to play this game. I'm going to get it around the Christmas sale, I think. I like card games. I just don't have the time right now for it, but yeah, I mean, obviously this was a big win for the Steam Deck because it doesn't require a high-powered PC, and it's perfect for get out gameplay. It's not surprising to see it up there. Then we have the game that I have sunk hours and hours and hours into over the past week, which is Vampire Survivors. I've been casually playing this on and off on the deck because my main save is on my phone. It's my treadmill game. When I walk on the treadmill at speed 3, incline 10 for 30 minutes to an hour, 5 days a week, I'm playing Vampire Survivors because it only needs one thumb to actually be played, which is awesome. The Ode to Castlevania DLC makes this a must buy. You can get the main game for $5. You can get the DLC for an additional $3. It's so funny because Vampire Survivors is a shameless ripoff of Castlevania in its art style, music, and pretty much everything except gameplay. So to see it get a DLC that pays so much perfect homage to one of my favorite series is incredible. You can unlock every character from Soma to Richter to Simon. Everyone is unlockable, and when you play as these characters, they have their iconic weapons, which is sweet. You can then unlock them for every character in the game so that they can be unlockables, which is cool. It also changes the music to be from that character's respective game. It actually converts to a 2D side scroller particular level, when you get into Dracula's castle, the first boss you have to fight to unlock Alucard is the doppelganger, and you get a jump. Like you hit up on the D-pad or the joystick or the virtual stick on your phone, and your character does this little flip. The doppelganger fight is exactly the same as it is in Symphony of the Night, in that you're fighting yourself using every move repeatedly. I feel like it can use them faster than you too, but it's so much fun. At number 7, we have Hades 2. The early access launch doesn't seem to be hurting that game at all. Number 8, we have Sparking Zero. I watched the Steam Deck HQ performance breakdown of this game, and it doesn't really seem like it's all that great on the Steam Deck. You have to run it at the lowest settings to get 50 to 60 FPS, and because it's formatted to run at 60 because it's a fighting game, they recommended playing the single player battles on the Steam Deck, but then playing multiplayer on your beefy gaming PC. I want to get to this game. I just have so much going on right now that I feel like I'll wait for it to go on sale, because Dragon Ball games go on sale pretty quickly, but I am excited for it because I love Budokai as a kid. 9th on the list, we have Brotato, which is a Vampire Survivors style game. I really like it. I play that on my phone as well. And then at 10th, Elden Ring, still hanging on. They're done with updates. They're done with DLC. They're moving on to their next game, but people love playing Elden Ring, and I cannot blame them because it is incredible. I want to see more horror games on the list in October, especially with how many great indie horror games released this year between Crow Country, Hollow Body, and Conscript. I mean, there's something for every style. Even going back to last year, we had stuff like Amnesia the Bunker. All of these games look and run great on the Steam Deck. I can't recommend any of them enough. The only one that I didn't love as much in the end as much as I loved in the beginning was Crow Country, because I'm just going to be blunt. The map is terrible. In Resident Evil, you can see where you are in a room. In Crow Country, you can't, and the map is confusing because the rooms are not laid out right on the map. I don't think, like, they're little boxes on the map, but they feel more open than that when you're actually in them. That's a minor gripe. I still really like that game overall, but yeah, I want to see more horror games during the month of October. You guys are slacking. Play Resident Evil 2, 3 remake, 4 remake, 4 original, 5, 6, Resident Evil 1 remake. You could play Resident Evil Outbreak emulated through the PS2 emulator you get through EmuDeck. You could play Shadows of the Dam Hella remastered. You could play Lollipop Chainsaw. That just came out on PC. There are so many great horror games. I want to see people playing horror games because it's my favorite genre. But anyway, that brings us to the second news story, which is I have it. I have the Hori wireless Steam controller that is only available in Japan. My friend Dustin, I took over for him at Last Stand Media doing all the thumbnails for Sacred Symbols, Summon Sign, Punching Up, and Defining Duke. It was a ton of fun. And the last part of his paternity leave was going to Japan. So I was like, hey, you see any Resident Evil merch? Hook your boy up. Unfortunately, he said there's no Resident Evil merch, but he did send me this controller, and he sent me a sake flavored Kit Kat. I give the sake flavored Kit Kat a 10 out of 10. I give this controller like a 6. So the first thing I noticed when I took it out of the box is that it feels really cheap because it's extremely light. Like, the first thing I checked was if it has a battery door, because it's so light. Like, you don't even feel like you're holding anything when you have it in your hand, but it does have a rechargeable battery, which is cool. I think the reason it's so light is because, unfortunately, it doesn't have rumble. Now, because this is like a Steam Deck translated into a Hori controller, it makes sense that it doesn't have rumble, because the Steam Deck's rumble is terrible. Like, you barely feel it 99% of the time. But I wish they added those weights in, the like little circular weights that you get with some other Pro controllers, because it just feels kind of cheap. And I'm sorry to say that, because it feels durable at the same time, but I just like a little more heft in my controller. But what you're getting with this is, again, a Steam Deck transitioned into a controller. So you get the back buttons. They're laid out a little bit differently. You get 2 on the back, and then you get 2 on the front under the D-pad and the right stick. The sticks feel like they have the exact same travel as the Steam Deck, so it won't feel any different when you switch over to this. They do retain the gyro, which is cool. So you have to use Steam input. I'll talk about that in a second, but they retain the feature where gyro turns on when your right thumb is on the right stick, and to recenter it, all you do, take your thumb off the right stick, recenter the controller, put it back on, and then you're good to go. But yeah, speaking of Steam input, there's a little switch on the back that lets it switch between X input and Steam input. You can use X input and get gyro, but you need Hori's official app for PC. Unfortunately, it's all in Japanese, so if you want to use gyro, it's going to have to be with a Steam game for now. Unless you can read Japanese, then you're good. You just have to use that Horipad app. If I had to liken this to any controller, I actually wouldn't liken it to a Steam Deck. I would liken it to the Nintendo Switch Pro controller. It feels very similar in the hand other than the fact that it's way lighter, and they retain the button triggers. So these are not full travel triggers, they're buttons. But other than that, the button presses and everything like that feel like the Steam Deck. The joysticks feel like the Steam Deck. You get the gyro, you get every feature. I like that they translated the Steam button to the middle. You've got the Steam Deck start button, you've got the Steam Deck select button, you've got the quick access menu button. So if you connect it to your Steam Deck, you can pull that up. And then you've got the connection button. I thought, again, because this is so light, that it was going to be a wired only controller because it comes with a really long USB-C cable, but in the box you get a Bluetooth dongle. You can obviously connect it over Bluetooth to your PC, but I use the dongle and it works great. Is this going to replace my DualSense Edge? No, I think I really want an official Steam controller too, because they really did a good job with the Steam controller. Once you got your head around how to use it, I really enjoyed it. I bought it when it went on fire sale for like $5, and I bought the case and the dongle for it. I had a lot of fun playing on the Steam controller. So I feel like that's the biggest reason this is only coming out in Japan. They probably saw data that people were playing with controller on the Steam Deck a lot, so they wanted to give them a halfway official version. But I really want them to make that Steam Deck style console, and obviously if they do that, they're gonna have to come out with the Steam controller too. This feels like a good half step though. I wouldn't pay extra to import it. Dustin did the conversion and it was $50 from the yen to American dollar. For $50, I think it's pretty good. But with how premium the Steam Deck feels for how relatively cheap it is, I feel like this is not quite there just yet. But yeah, as far as a controller goes, I think it gets the job done. I just have plenty of options between my many DualSenses, my many Xbox controllers, my DualSense Edge, and my upcoming 30th anniversary DualSense Edge. It's good, it's just not good enough to compete with those, so that's why I'm not going to use it. I think it'll look nice on my game shelf back there. But yeah, I just wanted to take a quick look. If you want a detailed video, my friend Bill over at the Nerd Nest did a 30-minute full review of this controller, and it covers everything. I actually was just skimming through it to see if I missed any features in my research, and then I ended up watching the whole video because it's that good. I highly recommend checking it out. But yeah, once again, huge shout out to my friend Dustin over at Last Stand Media for bringing this back from Japan for me. He's the co-host of Sacred Symbols, which is the PlayStation podcast over at Last Stand Media. He's also the host of Punching Up, which is their Nintendo podcast, and we've been on Summon Sign, I'm pretty sure, a couple of times, which is Brad Ellis from Easy Allies. He transitioned over to Last Stand Media to redo his show Frame Trap, and he changed the name. I was on the Halloween episode, and I highly recommend checking it out. Anyway, that brings us to the third news story of today's video, which is a bummer, but it's not really surprising. So we've been covering EA removing Proton support for a lot of their games that have multiplayer. They've been adding in the specific version of Easy Anti-Cheat that blocks the Steam Deck from use. They haven't been saying why, unfortunately, but now, thanks to this update to Apex Legends, we finally have an answer. So the first part of this is that Apex Legends has had its Steam Deck support removed, which really sucks because at the Steam Deck's launch, that was in the top played games for a very long time because unlike the Nintendo Switch version, Apex runs really well on the Steam Deck. But it turns out that the reason that they're removing support is because of Linux cheaters. They put out a whole statement about it. They were like, even though Linux makes up such a small percentage of the people cheating in Apex Legends, they made an impact on enough players where it became annoying, but because so few people actually play on Linux, aka the Steam Deck, it's not worth us dedicating our team's time to actually fix these exploits. And a lot of the exploits were blocked on Windows and then ported over to Linux so they could be used there, and they don't want to have people running double duty to block cheats on Windows or Linux, and that's a bummer. I feel like that's dumb and stupid, and if people want to play your game, which is free to play and is bleeding players every season, you should support people on those devices they want to play on. I mean, isn't Phil Spencer saying that all the time? The goal with Xbox is to bring more games to more people, and all the other game companies kind of say the same verbiage, but when push comes to shove and they have to deal with a few cheaters, they just pull support entirely for the vast majority of their online only games. Like, from one perspective, I understand it. I understand they want to protect the players that do put time into these games, but people are playing this on the Steam Deck and really enjoying enjoying it. So I'd really appreciate it if they just put in the extra little bit of money and time to block these cheats instead of removing support and punishing the people who aren't cheating, which I'm sure is the vast majority of the people playing Apex Legends. And it's just bizarre to see them do this in the face of the pretty good PC release for Dragon Age Veilguard. I know there's controversy with this game. I'm not wading into that because I honestly couldn't care less. It just doesn't look interesting to me. But despite that, they did do a good job with the PC port. Alex from Digital Foundry praised it up and down, left, right, and center, saying it was a great PC port and totally breaks the mold for how bad the ports have been for the past few years. It also doesn't have de novo at launch, so I guess anyone could pirate this game, which, you know, if they're blocking easy anti-cheat from working on the Steam Deck for Apex Legends because of cheaters, why are they okay with people being able to theoretically pirate Dragon Age Veilguard at launch? Like, that's a lot of trust to put in your Windows players. And then finally, it doesn't require the EA launcher. Now, I was hoping that would be the standard going forward, but seeing how they treat every game in the classic Xbox verbiage on a case-by-case basis, it seems like they only did that because they knew they needed a win and they had to do everything they could to block off the small groups of people who all have different gripes with the way EA does their PC releases. I genuinely don't understand why a PC game distributor's goal would ever be to limit people from playing their games. But once again, cheaters are hurting us, the people who don't cheat in games, because even if I wanted to, I don't think I could figure out how to run a cheat engine in Apex Legends in the first place. It's honestly, for me, more time than it's worth. And like, why are you even playing the game at that point? It can't be fun to just be the top of the leaderboard every time without actually learning how to play the game. I hope when EA sees the backlash, they reverse course, but I am not holding my breath for that. It's unfortunate, and I just feel like it's going to continue to get worse, as I say every time I talk about EA breaking one of their games on Linux. Anyway, guys, that's all I've got for you in today's video. As always, my name is Jimmy Champagne. I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching, and shape on.